Hey, you guys! We're back with the next episode of our Sryth Fantasy Text-Based RPG. Yeah. Last time, I don't remember. We joined the Ranger Ranger Patrol, which was interesting. I did not know eventually you could get to join them, so that is something new and interesting that we found out in the game. Yeah, so you can see from my map about the Border Ranger compound. But I think this episode I'm gonna drop off at Trollneck first. See what's happening there. I saw an adventure there. And then I can head back down to the Border Ranger compound if we still have time and figure out what's going on there. So, hey, thanks so much for hanging out and joining me. Let's just go. Oh my gosh. Yes, I just woke up. um, and my eyes are dry. And my throat's dry. That's why I woke up, because I was having dreams that my throat was dry, and it's true. I got some water here, so we'll handle it. All right, Troll Neck is a particularly dense section of the forest at the very southern end of Trek Wood. As its name suggests, it's part of the ancient wood. This part of the ancient wood has long been associated with trolls as well as other equally undesirable things. Let's check the adventures. Nowhere to run. With every sense alert for any sign of movement, you creep along the sloping passage, plunging deeper into the cave. Oh, it's the cave one. The bad tree. Big bad tree. Living tree, its knotted bark face twisted in a sinister grin, turns to face you, pivoting on its broad base of writhing roots in the center of the clearing. Okay, cool. Start my adventure. Let's go scaled. Because that's just how I roll. And so begins Nowhere to Run. You're moving along one of the more well-traveled roads that cuts through the dense southern region of Trekwood, known as Trollneck. The area has earned a rather fearsome reputation over the years as a place where travelers, even large caravans, have been set upon by all manner of savage creatures, most notably trolls and goblins. Despite the risk inherent in cutting through this section of the Great Forest, the time saved by not having to round the southern edge of the wood is an excellent argument against the unpleasant unlikeliness of any lurking peril. Early in the morning, when you nearly reach the edge of the forest, your uneventful trek suddenly takes a startling turn. The clamor of battle rings out through the trees to the north. You can clearly hear people shouting and what sounds like a roar of some savage creature, possibly an ogre. Unsettled but intrigued by the noise, you hurry northward, hoping to gain a glimpse of whatever it is that's going on. As you pass into the area of tall rolling hills, you come upon a grim scene. 5 men, their armor and weapons spattered with blood, stand over the remains of 3 slain ogres. The men look up as you step in the view as you offer you friendly greetings. "You only just missed it all," said one of the men, a young man who's trying to remove a blade of his axe from one of the dead ogre skulls. "There's 3 more dead up the hill just a bit, but one of them got away." An older man, his leather breastplate streaked with blood, finishes cleaning his sword and steps forward to greet you. He introduces himself as Tolls and tells you that he and his men will hire raid this area of a band of ogres that has been waylaying travelers along the forest roads. "Good job of it, too," he says, smiling as he nods in the direction of the ogre corpse. "A chieftain, if you can call him that, gave us a slip. He fled into a cave at the top of the hill. He only just managed to escape us, mind." Tolls tells you that he and his men are content to sit and wait for the ogre to emerge from the cave. "It's a dangerous sort of thing," he says, grimacing as he suddenly takes note of the blood covering the front of his leather armor. "I'd rather face the beast out here in the open than chase him into the dark. We'll wait for him." Suddenly, as if all at once recognizing an old friend, Toll's eyes widen and an incredulous expression spreads across his creased face. "You're Allison, aren't you? Well met, and here I am telling you of our insignificant exploits in some forgotten corner of the world. Well, maybe you'd be willing to help us out? Oh, all of a sudden you need help." Toll asks you if you would be willing to go into the cave at the top of the hill and pursue the ogre. "He's wounded and likely in a fairly foul mood," he says. "I don't know what any of us could hope to stand alone against him, but we're certainly not you, Allison. What do you say to that? You could keep whatever he's got." Toll's eyes and those of his 4 men behind him remain transfixed to you as you consider his proposal. Intrigued by the prospect of adventure, Toll tells that you'll be happy to look inside the cave. Toll nods and tells the men to dispose of the ogre remains as he takes you along the narrow trail that winds its way toward the top of the hill. Okay, dispose of the remains how? Is it like a Lord of the Rings, let's burn all the carcasses type of thing? What do they do with the bodies? Do they bury them? I would like to know that. At the end of the track, just below the summit, you arrive at the mouth of a cave set between two jagged spines of ledge. The two men stand watch. They tell Tolls that there's been no sign of the ogre. When Tolls tells you the man you've agreed to venture in the cave in search of the ogre, the pair seems profoundly impressed, though they caution you to remain on your guard. He was in a bad way when he went in there, says one of the men, but there's no chance he's dead. And he'll even be more dangerous now that he's hurt. May the old father protect you in there. Thank you. Tolls tells you that he and his men will wait here for you to return. He wishes you luck as you turn and step toward the dark opening. Just inside the mouth of the cave, you discover that the broad, uneven corridor makes a gradual but steady descent into the earth. With your very sense alert for any sign of movement, you creep along the sloping passage, plunging deeper into the cave. We're in. Okay, looks like a small cave. You're sitting at the bottom of a gently sloping passage less than a dozen yards inside the cave mouth. Now and again, from somewhere far off in the surrounding darkness, you believe you hear the sounds like ragged, heavy breathing. The sounds always fades after only a few moments. Okay, we're hearing ragged breathing from the opening, so you can't be that far in. You move cautiously along the sloping, uneven cave passages, your every turn alert for any sign of movement in the surrounding gloom. The carcass of an armored scavenger lies in this section of the cave passage. The horned beetle appears to have been crushed by a single stroke of a heavy blunt weapon. Well, that's ominous. Yes, we're keeping alert to the surrounding gloom. The carcass of armored scavenger lies here. Okay, so this cave also has armored scavengers. This is not this guy's cave. He just came in here. I mean, I always get left first, but it seems more prominent I should go the other way. The carcass of another armored scavenger. But he could be back there. Let's check this corner first then. Suddenly, you trek along the sloping passage, come to an abrupt halt as a group of armored scavengers scuttle out the gloom ahead. I knew it. The horned beetles immediately charge forward and surround you, making it impossible for you to escape. You quickly position yourself to face the ravenous insects one at a time. Now there's 5. With your back pressed against the ragged cave wall, you boldly engage in the first armored scavengers. Fight! You quickly turn to face the next. You fight. And the next. And another one. Oh, they're getting harder. The armored scavenger lies smashed at your feet, its lifeless body still oozing a thick grey and yellow ichor through the cracks in its nearly impenetrable shell. And the final one. Not too bad. The armored scavenger lies smashed at your feet, its lifeless body still oozing. With no more of the foul insects in sight, you relax your stance and exhale sharply. All around you the floor is littered with smashed, oozing remains of armored scavengers. After taking a few moments to check over your gear, you once again set off through the cave. All the way north. What's happening over here? Is it more beetles? Okay, I'm gonna skip this. I always think there's gonna be goodies in a corner before the main boss. Alright. See? Money. All around you the floor is littered with, nearby buried in a heap of rotting vegetation, you discover a leather sack containing a small amount of gold. After taking a few moments to check over your gear, you once again set off through the cave. Alright, let's go. We cleared the question marks anyway. We're gonna face this cupboard. More carcasses. I wager I should heal first. Fight! The sudden sound of heavy breathing from somewhere up ahead sets your every nerve on edge. The ragged, rasping wheeze grows larger as you draw up to the end of the passage. There, slumped up against the wall, his fearsome bulk spattered blood and his right thigh gashed to the bone, is the ogre. He looks up as you step closer, his large eyes ablaze with the flickering glow of your light. The ogre grumbles and tightens his grip on his heavy wooden club, still clutching in his left hand, though he makes a move to rise. Despite his weakened state, you have little doubt this massive creature remains a formidable and deadly foe. I will go, he growls, repeatedly, turning his gaze from you to a white figure a few yards to his right. Let me go, I'll not come back. You glance at the dark opening in the cave wall. Behind the jagged crevice, a passage slopes down into the darkness and quickly disappears from view. You realize that Ogre must know that this route will lead him out of the cave away from the men awaiting him outside. Let's do some divination. Since Ogre's telling the truth, he wants nothing more to do with either you or the men waiting outside the cave. I mean, he's probably going to attack people somewhere else, huh? We gotta fight. I'm sorry. I wish you to give the ogre a chance to strike first. You leap forward and attack the winged creature. The ogre snorts defiantly and it staggers to his feet and manages to fend off your assault before countering with its own savage attack. I mean, what are we gonna subdue it for? Is it racist to kill it just because it's an ogre? I mean, they've been attacking people, and he's their leader, so. You step back and stare down at the bloody remains of the ogre. The massive creature who managed to escape the fate of his kin on the hillside found himself at the inn with nowhere to run. Next to the wall against which the ogre is slumped, you discover a sack containing a large quantity of gold. The ogre's club, though a formidable weapon, is much too large and unwieldy to consider taking. Without further delay, confident the ogre will not soon return, you turn and begin to make your way out of the cave. I gotta walk out by myself, huh? Rude. Should went to the back, see what was at the back of the cave. Because I'm nosy like that. Make your way up the sloping passage and out of the cave. You emerge from the cave to find that Toll and his men have been eagerly awaiting your return. The men seem relieved to see you and listen with great interest as you describe to them what you found in the cave, including the encounter with the ogre. Without providing an abundance of details, you tell the men the ogre is dead. All present congratulate you on your bravery and skill. Toll thanks you and tells you that he would like nothing more better than one day to share an adventure with you. Any woman willing to chase an ogre into a cave is someone I'd like to have by my side in the thick of it, he says, meeting you in the shoulder cross. Well done indeed. The hunter set up camp near the top of the hill and immediately set about preparing a large pot of stew. You ask, only partly out of jest, if the brew has any ogre in it, eliciting a curse from the man tending the pot and a peal of laughter from his hungry companion. Not this time, growls the cook, across whose back is strapped a two-headed sword. That could be arranged if you like. Go down the hill ways and fetch me one of those legs. The men stir in the pot, grins, and then turns to devote the entirety of his attention to his task. After sharing a meal with the group, you take your leave of Tolls and his man. They wish you well, and Tolls reminds you to take care on the road. With afternoon starting to wane, you bid a final farewell to the hunters and head down out of the hills, seeking out the road that will lead you out of Trollneck into the tamer regions of the sprawling kingdom. Alright, let's take on the bad tree, huh? I should heal first, huh? Let's see, dragging me deep. No, nothing there. Warfoot, is it? Yeah, get some healing on anyway. Hey, who's with you? Hi, Olmark. Hi, Jack. Oakenhand. Let's save. Let's get it. Back to Trollneck for the other quest adventure. Scale it, embark. So begins Big Bad Tree. A clear morning in late summer, not far inside the southern border of Theckwood region is known as Trollneck. The bloody corpses of the 7 border rangers littered the clearing. Oh, that's my brother now. Last ranger to fall still clutches the axe with which he defiantly attempted to avenge his slain brothers in arms. A single blow from the Dhormuk snapped his neck, and ended his life. Drawn by the sound of the savage battle, you reached the scene just moments ago to find only 2 of the Rangers standing. Undaunted, you stride into the open swath of forest, determined to bring down the Dhormuk, a creature whose deadly might has now been laid bare. The living tree, its knotted bark-covered face twisting into a sinister grin, turns to face you, pivoting on its broad base of writhing roots in the centre of the clearing. "Another ranger," roars the Dhormuk, his deep, rumbling voice rife with mock surprise. "You don't look much like the others, do you? In fact, you don't quite look like much of anything. Puny, insignificant prey. Now that you're trespassing on a domain, Cayugrantha, have claimed for 1,000 years. That morning the Dhormuk widely slashes at you with its long bare top. Most branches scattered a flock of crows that had alighted upon its uppermost reaches. You duck under the Dhormuk's swiping limbs and rush into melee range, eager to engage the ancient beast and avenge the fallen rangers. My fallen comrades. Quick combat. Ooh, it was a hard one. The ancient Dhormuk staggers back and appears ready to topple over, and suddenly the wounds you inflicted upon it begin to rapidly heal. Saddling swift into the massive living creature, reaches down with its broad lower limbs and tears a large rock out of the earth. Cayugrantha grunts loudly as he hurls a small boulder at you. Shadow magic. You hurriedly summon your power of shadow magic. A chorus of angry whispers pass through your mind as the shadows of nearby trees rapidly weave themselves into a broad taunt web that neatly deflects the hurtling boulder, sending it rolling off into the underbrush. The shadows immediately retreat. Great combat. As before, just when it seems the Dhormuk is about to collapse, its wounds begin to mend. Okay, can I mend myself? No. Rude. You don't just fight me, lass. You fight the forest that sustains me, he snarls, his thundering voice echoing through the surrounding trees. Now the ancient living tree is again upon you, viciously swiping out with its broad lower limbs. Okay, is it really slain this time? Cayugrantha roars in agony and slumps down in the centre of the open swath. A series of violent shudders run through the ancient Dhormuk, and several of his thick limbs crack and drop to the ground. With a final grumble, the living tree crumbles into a twitching, splintered heap. The cruel forest giant who ruled his vast wild domain through the abject terror inspired by its fierce and mighty and legendary cruelty is no more. Wiping away the sweat streaming down your brow, you spend several moments recovering from the brutal melee. It takes you the better part of the next hour to properly arrange the bodies of 7 border rangers who fell in battle against the ancient Dhormuk. Each man's weapon has lain across his chest and his arms folded over. You vow to bear the tidings of their deaths to the outpost at Stout Ridge, the nearest base out of which Tisa's border rangers operate. As you're preparing to respectfully position the body of the last man, a folded piece of paper slips out from where it is tucked beneath his leather vest. A quick examination of the paper reveals it's a letter of personation to a woman by the name of Giolora in Edmark. Realizing that without your help the letter will never reach its intended recipient, you carefully considered possible courses of action. I'll deliver it. You decide to keep the letter and tuck it safely amongst your other belongings. And respectfully arrange the bodies of the border rangers. You take one last stroll through the open swath of forest, at the centre of which is a heaped the Dhormuks remain, pausing over each of the fallen to offer a silent prayer. At last, eager to report the grim events that unfolded here, you set off on a course that leads right to the forest, ultimately to the crumbling watchtower perched on the stony rise overlooking the southwest corner of the Trethek Wood and the outpost of Stone Ridge. Only a small handful of soldiers and border rangers remain in the outpost of Stout Ridge. Post commander is an imposing man with a short cropped grizzled beard, listens intently as you relate to him the scene you came upon in Trottle Neck and your battle against the Dhormuk that killed the 7 rangers. Your account leaves him speechless for nearly a minute. The commander thanks you for reporting the deaths of the rangers and commends you for your bravery and skill. Seemingly quite impressed you were able to face a defeat of fearsome Dhormuk on your own. There aren't many who would dare to face such a creature, he says, initiating his shoulder across. Thank you. I'm one of the rangers. A detail of the outpost commander where the battle against the Dhormuk took place and where the bodies of the fallen rangers are to be found He tells you that he will see to it that the dead are properly identified, interred, and their families are notified. Still recall the letter you found on one of the slain border rangers. You write the letter you found to the outpost command. He quickly examines it and tells you that he will make certain it is delivered to Admar. The command insists that you stay the night at the outpost, claiming the roads in this region are best travelled in daylight. Safe enough under the sun, but not so safe one might hope after dark, he says. With no reason to dispute the sentiment, you spend the night at Stout Ridge, where you enjoy hearty venison stew and some of the strongest palo you've ever tasted. Before drifting off to sleep in the old watchtower, you regale the soldiers and border rangers with colourful accounts of your recent travels and adventures throughout the kingdom. The next morning, just after dawn, you set off from the outpost of Stout Ridge, receiving a fond farewell from the men stationed at the crumbling watchtower overlooking Thackwood's southwest corner. You leave knowing that not only will the brave rangers who fell in Trollneck be properly tended, but that ancient evil of the Dhormuk, Cayugrantha, is vanished. The thick blanket of fog that cloaks the road and conceals much of the surrounding countryside gradually lifts as the sun rises to its lofty perch. The dim sky brightens as its dull palette of greys and whites is supplanted by a boundless, breathtaking cerulean expanse. Cerulean? As midday approaches, you spot a crossroads ahead, the weather signpost leaning at an awkward angle at the edge of the road, while likely to help determine which of the three new paths you'll follow as an endeavour to find your next adventure, wherever your travels take you. The big bad tree. Alright. No, we're in Easton. Let's head back to the border ranger compound. So this isn't that same one. Okay, gotcha. I attend to my horse. Still doesn't care about me. How rude you don't care about me. Alright, what's the adventures look like? I think we have enough time to do one, so let's do the first one. And so begins Harkinrin. Tasked by Nuruldor to track down a group of bandits responsible for a series of raised villages over the past few months, you set out from the outpost on the edge of Fernwind Wood and head north and east into a particularly remote region of the kingdom's eastern frontier. Based on what Nuruldor has told you, the bandits who believes are the culprits behind the recent burnings were under the command of a cunning and dangerous outlaw by the name of Thidrin. Nuruldor's description of Thidrin to you is murderous and elusive and tells you that he will nothing better than to see the vicious rogue meet his end before the onset of winter. Guided by only a handful of rumours, you soon discover several small villages, though, through which you pass, that Thidrin and his bandits are indeed the bandits behind the recent fires that have consumed several settlements on the front. In the last of these villages, a small collection of shacks known as Overleaf, the owner of the dilapidated inn, tells you that the notorious outlaw and his crew passed this way only yesterday, headed east toward the village of Harkinrin. Maybe 24 of them, says the innkeeper, whistling through the wide gap in his teeth. They might have split up after leaving here, though, or so it seems. Half gone north, the other straight east to Harkinrin. Wasting no time, you see to the knees of your horse and then swiftly set off into the east, riding as fast as the rough and meandering road will allow, hoping that you will arrive at Harkinrin in time to intercept the villainous band and hoping that you won't find yourself too badly outnumbered. 4 hours after leaving the inn, you cross the village limits of Harkinrin, a small settlement on the western edge of the broad swath of rolling hills and dense evergreen forest. As the village centre comes into view up ahead, you're greeted by a sinister sight that leaves you seething. A group of rugged-looking horsemen, each of the weapon at his side, is surrounding a lone, grey, bearded man outside a small dwelling. The man appears to be pleading with the horseman, and before you can assess the situation further, one of the riders draws his sword and lays a cruel blow on the grey, bearded man with the flat of his blade. The helpless victim of the vicious swipe collapses to the ground in a heap. Several onlookers shriek and some begin cursing the horseman. 7 riders, perhaps sensing that no good had come from lingering in the village, turn their steeds so swiftly east and swiftly ride out of the town. Although you're not certain, you have a strong feeling that the uncouth band may indeed be the very men that you've been seeking. Perhaps Thidrin is even among them. Let's help this guy. You urge your horse into a gallop, and with only a few short moments you're at the side of the fallen man. You leap down from the saddle and kneel down next to him as you attempt to assess his condition. A large swelling has formed over his left eye, and a rather nasty gash has been cut across the crown of his head. While the wounds don't appear to be life-threatening, certainly they're extremely painful to bear. Dozen villagers gather around and begin to crowd forward, attempt to assess for themselves the state of their friend and neighbour. Use restoration. You press your hands to the fallen man's forehead and channel your powers of restoration. Almost at once you feel a powerful one begin to flow through your hand and over your stunned subject. After only a minute or two, you remove your hand from his head. He slowly regains his feet. He no longer bears any marks to remind him of the nasty blows he took at the hands of his cruel assailants. "Thank you," he says, staring at you wide-eyed. "Thank you, friend." "You're welcome." "Glad am I to see a border ranger," says the man who introduces himself as Toonburan. He eyes the wooden brooch affixed to your chest and tells you that while the people of Harkenren appreciate all that rangers do in the effort to keep them safe, your numbers are too few to cover the vast territory of the kingdom's eastern frontier. You speak with the gathered villagers and learn that the bandits responsible for the attack you've just witnessed are led by a particularly brutal ally by the name of Thidrin. Tuberin tells you that Thidrin and his brigands have been collecting tribute from many of the settlements of the area for quite some time. When their demands aren't met, they return in the dead of night, says Tuberin, and they'll burn a village to the ground. Thidrin has been on the recent burners you may have heard whispers of. I don't know that anyone laid on him in a good long while, though. He lets his underlings do all the legwork. Real snake is what he is. Angered by the little you've heard about the brazen bandit leader, you ask the villagers if they know where he can be found. Most of them seem reluctant to speak, but Toonburan tells you that the bandits have been camped out in the hills east of the village. If you're thinking of going after them, I'd think twice about going alone, he said, removing a small object from his pocket. If you're so inclined, though, let me give you this. A wooden luck charm, okay. Toonburan presses a small flat object at your head and tells you that it helps you, it'll bring you luck. And when he removes his hand, you find yourself staring down at a crudely carved wooden charm. Certainly the charm is not in any way magical, but appreciative of the sentiment you attach to it. He's attached to it. You thank Toonburan for the gift. He shakes his head and wishes you luck in your search for the bandits. Mind yourself if you go up against that Thidrin. He's not a man of valor, not by a long stretch. He's not. Should have a trick or two in store. Thank Toonburan for the advice and bid farewell to the village of Harkenren as you once again set off in search of the cruel bandits and their elusive leader. You leave the village of Harkenren behind as you ride up the hills to the east. The terrain quickly becomes rugged and steep. After nearly an hour, you're about to abandon your hope of ever finding the bandit camp when suddenly you spot a thin stream of smoke rising up from the top of the distant hill. Keeping your eyes peeled for any sign of movement on the surrounding hills, you steadily make your way toward the smoke. After several minutes, you find yourself at the foot of a narrow trail that ascends the hill from which a thin wisp of smoke still rises. The gaze fixed on its treeless summit, you begin a cautious ascent. You urge your horse up the steep and narrow trail that leads to the treeless summit of the hill from which still rises a thin column of smoke. You kneel at the bare summit of the hill when you suddenly spot three men lurking in the bush on either side of the narrow trail. The rugged-looking men are preparing to ambush you. Now, however, their plan to attack you boldly continue along the trail as the man bursts out from the tangled grove and throw themselves at your in a frenzied assault. You're ready and eager to engage them. Hey, you have an advantage. The rear man closing around you, attempting to stay just behind you, reaches you prepared to defend yourself. Death to the heathens. You step back from the bloody corpses of the slain men and just your gears, your eyes scan the nearby hills in case other bandits are lurking about. When you're certain you're not in any imminent danger, you search the bodies of three bandits and discover their weapons and a small quantity of gold. Quick search of the remains of the camp reveals that it is deserted. Based on the number of hoof prints you discover in the soft earth, the smoldering remains of two large fires, you estimate that perhaps as many as 24 men were here only a few hours ago. Realize there's little chance you'll find Thidrin. You're about ready to start back to Fernwyn Wood and the border ranger outpost when a shrill whistle, followed swiftly by an unmistakable sound of something striking the ground nearby makes your blood run cold. You lean over and peer down the center and immediately spot a feathered end of the arrow shaft protruding from the ground, barely footed to the right of your steed's hoof. Instinctively, you whip your head in the only direction which the shot could have originated. Your eyes lock on the silhouettes of a lone rider atop an adjacent hill. The rider whose left hand clutches a tall bow. The rider whose face you cannot make out in this distance reaches up, tips his hat to you before turning and riding off back to the hill, disappearing from sight. Although you cannot possibly be sure, you cannot help that but that you just had an encounter with the notorious bandit leader Thidrin. Without care, further delay, you begin to lengthily trek back to Fernwind Wood. It's nearly dusk when you at last find yourself back with a relative safety and comfort of the outpost on the edge of Fernwind Wood. The Ruledor is glad to see that you've returned safely and promptly ushers you into the plain wooden building toward the back of the compound that serves as command quarters. The Ruledor listens as you relate to him what you encountered in Hawkinrin. The leader of the Rangers then tells you that finding and capturing Thidrin must be made priority. You must certainly know that, how thin we have spread in these parts, said Neruldor. Nothing else would explain the boldness of his action. I want to make sure he's taken alive, though. If indeed he and his men have been the torchbearers, they'll receive their due justice in the end. Neruldor seems somewhat distressed by your mission with regards to having killed the 3 bandits. Sometimes there is no other way. But in all situations we must avoid lowering ourselves to the level to those we seek to bring to justice. Master Ranger thanks you and again congratulates you on a successful mission. A second ago he said he wanted him dead. Now he's like, oh, don't kill anybody. I'll dispatch our pair man to watch over Hawkinrin. You are without any doubt the most welcome addition to our little fold, Allison. Alright, well, good timing to end the episode here. Hey, next time we'll see what the other adventure is. We'll see what else is going around in the eastern area, if there is more. And then we'll head southeast. That'll be our last new area that we've never visited before, so that'll be fun. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out and joining me. Until next time, you know what I'm going to say. Peace.